A must-have skill set that every single person on your team needs. That is what we're talking about today. Now, as a small business owner, we have to get good. The CEO, when I say we, I mean the CEO. We have to get good at a lot of things in our business. And here's the deal. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. Some of us lean into our strengths and others try to fix their weaknesses. And maybe it's even a mix of both, right? But what happens when one of your weaknesses that you're avoiding is an absolute must have skill set you must learn in order to scale and grow your business? Okay. That's when you become the bottleneck. So I want to share a story and I want you to see very quickly if you can tell what this skill set is. Okay. So recently, I was just about to fall asleep and my daughter yells for me to come fix her blanket. Now, this is clearly something she can do. She is now 10, but she is trying to get me to come in there. Okay. The problem is, I don't want to get out of bed. I am almost falling asleep. And I know that if I get up and walk across our house, right, to get to her room, then I'm going to get my second wind and I'm not going to go to bed. So I reply back, if you can figure this out on your own, I will let you pick out a piece of candy or two from tomorrow's, like I should say for tomorrow in the candy jar. So she replies back and she says, fine. Like she wasn't completely happy, but she wanted the candy more than she wanted me to fix her blanket. Okay. The skill set is getting what you want. It's also known as sales. And a lot of business owners think, I don't want to get good at sales. I don't need to get good at sales. I can just hire somebody to get good at sales, right? But sales is just getting what you want, right? I had to sell her on my idea. So my idea was that mom gets to stay in bed, right? But of course, she doesn't care about that. So I had to ask myself, what does she care about? What would serve her, right? Sales isn't just about making money. Sales is about making a win-win for everybody involved, right? I know my daughter and I know that candy is going to be something that could get her there, right? Now, here is where I think a lot of business owners massively struggle. Sales isn't just for you, the CEO, to get good at. I was recently thinking about this, and this is a skill set that every single person on your team needs to study and understand. Okay. I'm going to share more on that in a minute. So just stick with me. Now, it isn't what you think. It isn't just selling someone on what you offer. Okay. Selling is about me, the CEO, selling a potential employee on why you should work here in my business instead of the other maybe job offer you received, right? It's about getting them to understand why they should maybe leave their current job, even though it's a little bit of a pay cut, right? And it's figuring out how to get those same team members to choose to stay with me year after year. I have to sell them not just on coming to work for me, but staying to work for me. Okay. So I use this skill set to sell my team on my crazy big ideas, my crazy big revenue goals. When I tell you I want to triple revenue next year, I have to sell them on the fact that I'm not crazy. It is possible and they can help me get there. Right. Now, I was just like thinking about this and I was thinking about each person on my team and how they would need a sales skill set and why they would need it. Okay. So I'm going to give you a few positions and I want you to understand why this is so critical in your business. And if you've ever thought, why are we not growing fast? Or maybe you're thinking, I just don't feel like we're scaling at the level I want, or this person maybe just isn't the right person. Well, it's maybe because they're lacking this selling skill set. Okay. So Christina is my EA, so my executive assistant. And I actually, when I was thinking about her, I was like, oh, she's going to be the hardest one to convince you that an EA would need a sales skill set. However, let me just tell you, when I started jotting down the things that she was doing, I was like, oh, no. She needs this probably more than anybody. So for instance, okay, when Julie on my team gets a yes from somebody that wants to be maybe on me on their show, or maybe have somebody come on my show, right? Which is selling, trying to get them to understand why this would make sense for them, right? Christina has to sometimes sell them on why they should open up more times for me. So sometimes a podcast host will say, oh, John only records on Tuesdays, but maybe all I have open is Thursdays. So Christina has to sell them on why John wants to open up a Thursday and why I'm going to be a phenomenal guest on a show. That is sales skills, right? Now, when somebody is trying to reach me, she has to sell them on why she can handle this conversation without involving me. There's a lot of conviction that has to happen, right? Now, that one, I didn't think was going to be as easy, but when I started to see what she has to do in email, right? Or with my calendar, there is so much involved there. Now, another piece, marketing and sales. You obviously get that. I don't really need to go there, right? I'm not going to have to describe why marketing and sales would need sales skill set, right? But I want to go into one that maybe feels a little bit less, maybe one that's not coming to top of mind as much, right? So I want to move into fulfillment. So here's the deal. In fulfillment, they have to sell people on the decision they just made. Okay. So sometimes people have salespeople and they're like, perfect, we got the sale. Now let's put it in the program or the service or whatever it is. But what you don't understand is buyer's remorse is so real. So even when a salesperson sells and they pass it on to somebody else, that first point of contact has to convince them you made the best decision. Okay. They also have to sell people on our boundaries. Okay. So if this is talking about my specific program or coaching program, right? We have to sell them on why we don't coach on Saturday and Sunday. And you're not going to get our coaching at 2 a.m., right? On a weeknight, right? That's a good thing. They have to sell people to show up for the calls. They have to sell people to use our products. They have to sell people to implement what they don't want to implement sometimes, right? They have to sell people on why you need to fire that person, but they don't want to fire them because that's going to be a difficult conversation. We have to sell them on understanding like what's really going to move them forward, right? So we have to constantly get good at busting objections. When somebody says, oh no, Stacy, this person has been so loyal to me, I could never fire them. My coaches have to sell you on the idea of why you need to let them go anyway. Okay. So do you see this? Like every position I was bringing up in my business, every position in my organization needs to have sales skills. Sales is the lifeblood of your business. Okay. Why do most businesses fail in year 1 or year 5, right? Those are the big statistics. It's because of cash flow problems. They most likely weren't able to figure out how to sell more than they were spending. They're negatively cash flowing, right? Even a business that is crazy successful that you start, right? Like all of a sudden they're doing really well, but then you start to see them go downhill. What's their problem? Negative cash flow. I watched somebody online, $40 million a year business, publicly state they were closing the business. This was on Instagram, okay? Publicly state they were closing the business, that margins just weren't working anymore. They were in a physical product space. The math wasn't making sense with Facebook ads. Literally a $40 million business was closing their doors because of negative cash flow. Okay. So negative cash flow comes from spending more than you're making. And sales is one of the easiest ways to get out of that situation. Selling is just effectively communicating, right? I have great products that can help people. But the only way I can help them is if I convince them to buy. Okay. So although I'm good at selling, I don't always win the sale. There have been people that I haven't been able to close that desperately need our program. Okay. They didn't buy. And in the end, I was like sad for them. Right. And I knew they would keep doing what they were doing and they would be in the same spot in 6 months with less cash flow, with more problems. Right. And I know if they would just buy, I could change that. But unfortunately, in some situations, I haven't effectively communicated enough to get them the help they need, right? So this is a level of responsibility we have as business owners, okay? It is not good enough to just have a great solution, right, to this problem. We have to be good at effectively communicating that our customers can say yes, right? Our team members can say yes to working here. So I know working here is a whole lot more fun than other places. So when I see somebody take another offer because it's a bigger corporation or they have better benefits or fill in the blank, right? Or they think small business just feels really risky, I'm sad for them, right? But I also realized I didn't effectively communicate the vision, which is why I lost the sale. Okay. As you start to enhance your sales skills, your business will benefit, but you'll also get to help so many more people that can benefit from what you do. So a lot of people have this really negative feeling about selling, like, oh, it's salesy and sleazy, and oh, I just don't want to be that person. But here's the deal. When you actually have a great product, when you actually have a great place to work, you want to get good at selling because you will impact so many more people, right? Now, I've had somebody come to me who had like this great product, but nobody was really buying it. And her competitor, who was like nowhere near as good as her, was getting all of these people. And she was so irritated. And she's like, I just don't get it. We are so much better than they are. And I'm like, it's pretty simple. They're just better at selling than you are, right? Now, I have a feeling their retention was probably really awful, okay? But that's besides the point. We've got to get the initial sale to let somebody try us out. So if you know that you have a better product than your competitor, but they are better at selling, you have an opportunity and an obligation to serve at a higher level so people know you are the place to go. You are the place to work for, right? So as you start to enhance your sales skills, your business is going to benefit, right? But then you're also, like I said before, so many more people are going to get to benefit with you. It is truly a win-win. Now, I used to think that there were natural born salespeople, and I just wasn't one of them, right? So I would find others to help me with the selling piece. And now, where I'm at today, it is a non-negotiable. Not only is it a non-negotiable for me not to learn sales, but it is a non-negotiable for anybody in my company to not like learn sales, right? So not only am I refining my sales skills, but I'm working on it with my team, okay? We actually just talked about somebody who helps us in customer service in our DMs. Okay. And maybe you've already DM'd us and you've already heard somebody be like, oh, hi, it's Anna. Let me help you here. Or hey, it's Bella. Right. And one of the things she was saying was, a lot of people want to watch your webinar, but they'll just respond back and say, oh, I'm not free during that time. And I was so excited to see one of my team members say, well, that's just a selling objection. I know a webinar is free. So here's the deal. Even though we're trying to get them on a free webinar, she still has to sell them, to rearrange their schedule, to make it live that day to watch it, because we don't do a replay, right? So when we were realizing her biggest problem was, oh, people just can't make it, we're like, no. You just aren't selling them on why they need to figure out how to make it, right? So this is what I'm talking about. There's just so much sales here. So if you are still saying, I'm just not that great at sales, or I just don't really have any interest in it, you need to stop saying that and start working on it. You need to start researching sales. You need to start reading sales books. If you're in well-oiled operations, check out our recommended reading for all of our favorite books on this subject, as well as all of our sales systems, okay? We are selling at rapid speed. We have all of our sales systems inside of our program, okay? Then take it one step further. Start trying to actually sell. Write a better sales email. Create a social media post in which you're actually trying to sell them to do something, right? To either watch that video or click this button or whatever that call to action is. And then watch to see what your results are. Are they getting better? Don't just post and think no one said anything, right? Oh, see, I'm bad at sales. Look at the post and say, why do I think no one took action? What could I experiment with here? What could I change next time? And then try it again. It's just not an option to say, oh, I'm bad at sales, I'm not going to do this. It's okay, I've got to start getting better at this, right? So I have been focused right now on sales for only a couple of years. And I think I'm getting pretty good at it, right? I want you to know I haven't been doing sales forever. So trust me, there is hope for some of you that are like, no, I've been in this for a long time. I've been in business 20 years, and I'm not kidding when I say I just started studying sales to the level of what I'm doing now in the last 2 years. I don't even want to think about how many millions of dollars I have left on the table because I have not just like sucked it up and learned this skill set, right? Now, my last point that I want to share is one of the biggest reasons that you want to start to become a master at sales is because if every position needs sales skills, how will you be able to support your team if you don't understand sales skills? It starts at the top. You need to get strong as a CEO, as a small business owner. so you can teach others, so you can catch others making the mistake of thinking, oh, like I'll hear people say things like, oh, Sue said this or John said this, or right. And it just sounds like this fact. I'm like, no, 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 that's just their thought. They convinced you that they really don't have time. So then you believed them, right? You need to be stronger in your conviction that you better start making the time. The reason you're in this situation is because you haven't been making the time, right? And what happens is the louder voice, and I don't mean louder, but you know what I'm saying, the more convicting person wins the battle, right? So it's so funny because I just watch this with my kids all the time. And anytime Kent will like give into them, I'm like, she won. She had more conviction. She like, right. If she gets the thing, if Tanner or Tegan gets whatever it is they're trying to do, and trust me, it's not just Kent. I definitely lose the battle a few times too. And I'm like, I just don't have it in me. She's going to keep going until she gets it. Right. At some point, like that person, whoever is the other person, has more conviction over you. So how can you truly stand firm in your conviction? Now, what I've noticed with a lot of business owners is they don't have the confidence, which means their conviction is just not there. They let people decide, I don't have time for this, or I don't need this, or I'm going to try this instead, right? And because the other person, whether it's a team member or your client, has more conviction, you fall for it. You believe it. So we've got to build your confidence up to build up that conviction. Okay. Now, because I shifted my identity into somebody who loves sales and believes that I'm a good salesperson, I can absolutely feel the shift in my business. Okay. So some of this is strategy and some of this is systems. Okay. Like I said, we have a lot of our systems inside of Well Oiled. So we have an end of day sales report. We have a sales tracker that we are using, right? We have things for every one of our Well Oiled Mastery clients. Like, I want you to make sure you know, like, go look in your templates vault. These are in there. Okay. Start having this be a part of your everyday, you learning this skill set and all the other things that you're doing, right? I want you to know that this is like what's more important than selling in your business, right? What is more important? Somebody keeps asking me, why are you blowing up so quickly? And I'm like, listen, the Post-it I had on I have this like little light thing over here, and I always have one Post-it. The one that I used to have, I don't have it up here anymore because we're dialing that in. But it literally said, number one, over deliver Well Oiled. Number two, sell and market Well Oiled. Like that was it. That was all I did last year. I poured into Well Oiled like you wouldn't believe and made it be the best program out there. And what that did was it raised my confidence, which raised my conviction. So when one of my team members says, oh, this person was an ideal client, but she's having a baby in 3 weeks, so it just wasn't a good time. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is the best time. She's got 3 weeks to hurry and get as much of this done as she can before she goes on a maternity leave and she can actually enjoy it. Like, get her in there now. And all of a sudden, as I say that, my team's like, you're right, right? Like the person with the most conviction wins. And I can truly convince somebody to buy my program 3 weeks before they're having a baby because I really believe it's going to positively impact their life. Where I'm seeing people not have this conviction is they don't really believe it. They're thinking, oh, this isn't a great time. You should definitely call back in a few months, right? We just had like a bookkeeper and she was like, I need to do this as soon as I am done, like with taxes, right? As soon as like at the end of April's done, then I can definitely jump into Well Oiled. And I said, and my team member totally bought it. And I said, you know what's going to happen? I actually believe she's going to buy it. She'll buy at the end of April. I said, she's going to come in at the end of April. She's going to go through the program and she's going to say, I wish I would have had this in March and April when I was going crazy with the end of the year. Like we help people systematize and streamline, right? And I just said, so what's going to happen is she's going to be a little like upset with herself. And she may even be upset with you that you did not say to her, this is not the time to wait. This is the time to jump in, right? But we lost that sale, at least for the moment, because the most convicted person was the person who believed this isn't the right time, right? So as I start to train and teach my team, like, no, here's why, all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about it like that. You're right. I know we can help her during her busiest time. So I want you to be thinking about that with your team. Where are you letting numbers fall? Where are metrics slipping and your team is making excuses and you're believing them or they're believing your clients? Okay. So if you I should say this, as you start learning this skill and using these systems, I want you to start looking at that data, because the data is going to help you lean in and try to figure out how you need to massage this out as you're learning how to sell. Because trust me, this is not just like, oh, you put it in place and then it explodes, right? You put it in place, you see what works, you see what didn't, and you keep refining, right? Now, if you have a goal of $1 million, let's say for gross revenues, okay? But let's say this was for last year, 2022, but you were short. It could simply be you learning the skill set of selling that takes you from where you are to where you want to be. Okay. It is a skill set followed by systems. If you aren't making the kinds of sales you want to make right now, it's time to lean in and get better at this. Okay. All right. I can tell right now, I just really hope you have drank this Kool-Aid today, because the more I'm drinking it myself, the more our business just constantly keeps exploding. Okay. I can't tell you how much is involved when I read an email, when I read a text message, when I read a post we post in our portal for our members, right? When I am talking about why Powerhouse wants to come to the retreat coming up in May. Even though they're in the program, even though they paid for the retreat, I have to sell them on getting there in person, experiencing it, right? There is just so much you don't even realize is selling. So here's what I want you to do. Little homework for today. I want you to watch the rest of this week as you create. I want you to ask yourself, like, just mental note of like, oh, this is a selling moment. I'm trying to sell this team member on working Tuesday night and she's not wanting to, right? Like whatever it is, I want you to go like, I lost that because I didn't understand the sales piece of it. Okay. So anyway, this has been so pivotal for me, and it just was something so in real time that I'm like, this has to be a podcast episode, because I know for some of you, you are already having some big takeaways, and I would love for you to learn from my mistakes and not lose millions and millions of dollars because you thought you were too good for sales. Okay. So we've got some amazing episodes coming up next month. Make sure you stay tuned. I'm really trying to ask myself, like, what is going on in real time? I'm not batching these episodes super far in advance. I'm trying to stay here in the moment so you can learn right alongside of me as we scale our business to the 8-figure mark. That is where we're heading, you guys. We are definitely like bootstrapping, like head down, staying super focused, right? And it's been a really, really fun journey, and I can't wait for you to come there with us. All right. See you next time, friends.